Hey lovers, welcome back. Today's episode is coming to you from the vault. We recorded this one back in December of 2023, just a few months after our wedding, and it's just been waiting for the perfect time to come out and be heard by you all. In this episode, we dive into the question of self-love and do we truly need to love ourselves first before we can love someone else? We ask this question and more on this episode today. So if that sounds interesting to you, then stay tuned and make sure you subscribe so that you don't miss any future episodes.
Welcome back.
Woohoo!
Yeah.
Back on the podcast. Thanks for tuning in. We're excited to talk to you today about, is it true that you need to love yourself before you can love someone else? So we'll look at this sentiment from different perspectives and find the truth nuggets inside of it.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's dive into this. On the one hand, I think that if you have like a deep level of self-hatred or self-loathing going on, that there's definitely some work that's needed to be done there in order to put yourself in a position where you can really maintain a healthy relationship. But that I'm talking about kind of a more extreme scenario. For the most part, when it comes to, the kind of standard levels of self-doubt, negative self-talk, self-image or self-confidence issues, all of these kinds of things, I don't believe that you need to, be fully in love with yourself in order to have a great relationship.
Yeah, I agree. For many people, and myself included, at first, it's a lot easier to love someone else, someone outside of you that has all these qualities and virtues that you love and admire, and it's just very easy to express that to other people.
Yeah, so when you feel that feeling of love with another person, it teaches you how to love.
Mm-hmm.
We come into this world as babies, showered in this unconditional love of our mother and our caregivers, hopefully most of us. And if we don't, it causes a lot of deep pain and suffering. So right from our very first moments alive, before we have any concept of what is love, we're already receiving this unconditional love of our mother. And that's like this first thing that teaches us what love is.
Yeah, this came up in my mind, what is love?
Maybe don't hurt me.
Sure, we should put that song in at some point.
Yeah, so I think in a healthy relationship, our partner can really bring out the best in us. And our partner can be somebody who holds up a mirror to show us what is so great about ourselves. Like, they can really help us learn to love ourselves more deeply.
Yeah. Some subconscious level, it's like, oh, you love me. I guess there must be something there to love.
For sure.
Yeah, I know. Especially after getting together. After that point, I had a lot more love for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And now learning to love yourself even more deeply is also a super important thing, though. So this isn't to say that it's not important to do the work to love yourself more deeply. And what I find is that I see this with my clients when I'm coaching, is that when I help them access deeper and deeper levels of self-love, they can become more secure in their relationship because they're no longer approaching their relationship like a hungry ghost, looking for I need your love, seeking love from some source outside themselves. When you can really tap into this infinite source of love that's within you, then you get to just relax a little bit and kind of eliminates the fear of losing love, which ironically then makes you more secure in relationship and actually helps you feel the love that's already there.
Right. The more you're coming from a place of fear and need, the less open you are to receiving and giving that love.
Exactly. Yeah, it's one of these ways we trip ourselves up, that the fear of losing love is what prevents us from being able to fully feel and receive the love that we so want.
Yep. Pretty much the fear of anything just manifests itself. So, yep. Better to choose love over fear.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think these two things, loving ourselves more deeply and being in partnership, are so synergistic. And through partnership, we can encourage each other to do the work to love and accept ourselves more fully. And when we love and accept each other fully, it's like demonstrating that that's possible to each other. And it helps that process of deepening the self-love.
Mm-hmm. On that note, what are some ways that you would recommend people who want to deepen their own self-love? What practices or doing the work? What would that look like?
Yeah, so I think it starts with acceptance. I think, especially when it comes to self-love, acceptance is always the place to start, because often what gets in the way of self-love is rejecting some part of ourself. So it's the belief that I shouldn't be like this, or I should be this way that I'm not, or the way I'm feeling isn't okay. A lot of times there's like shame for feeling this way, shame for not being this way, pressure to be something that I'm not. So I think the first step is always acceptance. Easier said than done, but actually not super hard, especially if you have somebody to guide you through that process. Like, it can be done in just moments. Finding a place of pure, true acceptance within yourself, it can happen quickly. And from that place of deep, deep acceptance, you can kind of look at these aspects of yourself then without judgment. And then it becomes truly a practice of actually sitting with each of these parts. Can I meet my fear of losing love and love that fear? And this is a process I think that's best done somatically. So actually going into the body and experiencing the feeling of what that fear feels like, leaving room for it and just witnessing it and holding it with a big love. Again, easier said than done, but also quite simple once you learn how to do it. So that, I think, is like, it's a continual practice. So it's not something you just do once. It's something that you do over and over and over again. It's a way of being. So it's like, in any moment, I can feel some emotion or a self-judgment arise within myself, and I can meet that rather than making a story about what it means about me and putting myself down about it. I can just meet it with acceptance, let it be there, and actually love it in that moment and ask, what does this need? What do I need right now? And then give myself what I need. And that, I think, is self-love in action.
Yeah. Now, what if one isn't able to notice and become aware of, oh, that's me being judgmental?
Yeah, that's probably the hardest part of the whole process.
Okay.
Yeah, that's that moving from unconscious incompetence, where you don't even notice it because it's not in your awareness, moving from there to the conscious incompetence. And so it's a practice, but I think what's most helpful is practicing meditation. Because, as you know, meditation practice, the whole point is to practice noticing thought patterns and feeling patterns as they arise and just witnessing them. So if you can practice that as you're seated in silence, at first, that might be challenging, but with enough practice, you'll get really good at that. when you get really good at that, then you start to practice it as you're moving about your day. And then it becomes a lot more easy to spot one of these self-judgments or to notice a fear before you let it, run you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I would imagine another way too is you can just see what does irk you throughout daily life. If you see somebody doing something that annoys you or something with your partner, generally those things that bug us are usually things that we have unresolved in yourself.
Yes.
So I imagine it'd be another good clue.
Yes, 100%. It's a kind of a cliche saying, but the whole thing, when you have one finger pointed, there's three more pointed back at you. And that's what, it's called projection. People, it's kind of a buzz term, projection. But what does projection actually mean? It means that you're seeing something, you're seeing somebody or some situation that you're putting your own meaning onto based on your own experiences and unconscious beliefs. So you're projecting your own story onto them, and they're just like a blank canvas. And that's kind of what we do all the time with our whole lives. So you're right, it's a great thing to notice. If I get irked, frustrated, annoyed, that's my cue to pause, notice, look inside, and you don't have to do anything or fix anything. You just first have to notice and feel it and accept it. Not try to change it. Just go, okay, this is what I'm feeling right now. Just naming it, noticing it, and naming it is huge. And then another thing is, when it comes to partnership, you can give each other permission to lovingly point out when you see one another falling into a pattern of negative self-talk or self-judgment, doubt, fear, any of these things.
Great idea. That's super important topic, and probably do a whole episode on that sometime. Can you give us a quick snapshot of how you would set some agreement like that up with your partner?
Yeah, let's see. So, we've done this. We've kind of had an ongoing agreement for a long time that we both know that we're open to coaching.
Yeah.
And we're open to each other's gentle suggestions and feedback and reminders.
Yeah. I find it's always helpful at first to always, even though we have that agreement, to always preface it with, hey, are you open to some feedback, some ideas?
Yes,
coaching?
always. Yeah.
In the heat of a moment, it might come across as not helpful.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's a very important question, because especially if you're a male partner asking a female, really important question, because sometimes, even though generally I am open to some reflection from my partner because I really value that opportunity to grow, sometimes, no, I just want to feel what I'm feeling.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want you to listen to me for a minute and not fix anything.
Yeah.
And that's actually often where you need to start. Yeah.
Yes.
And then once I felt the things and you've listened and everything, then I might be ready for some feedback. So, always ask, are you open to for some feedback, or would you like my perspective on this? Mm-hmm. But to step back and rewind and answer that first question, I think first it starts with a mutual agreement that our relationship is a portal for our mutual growth.
Yeah, an ongoing project to get better and better.
Yeah. And as such, that means we're here as each other's, biggest fans and also coaches. We're here to lovingly point out the things for one another that we might not be able to see ourselves. And that's, again, another reason why relationship can help us deepen our self-love, is because a lot of these things are hard to see for ourselves, and they might be a lot more obvious to somebody on the outside.
So, tying it back to self-love, or loving someone else?
Yes to both.
Yeah.
Yes to both. So yes, self-love is so important, and you don't need to be 100% loving yourself in order to have a great relationship. In fact, you'll never be 100% loving yourself. Maybe in moments. I think there's definitely moments where I've experienced like true unconditional self-love, but it's not a constant state. There's always going to be negative self-talk that creeps in. There's always going to be doubts or fears that creep in. It's not like loving yourself is some end destination. Just like in relationship, you don't just fall in love once and then voila, you're in love for life. It's a continual process of deepening and strengthening and like allowing that love to flourish.
Yeah, with the goal of just being in that loving state more and more of the time.
Yeah.
And bounce back quicker from those times of fear or judgment or not love.
That's exactly it. Yeah. Just like in meditation, where nobody could expect that you could, sit down for hours and not have a single thought. Even the best meditators in the world still have a thought here or there creep in. But the goal is to notice the thought as quickly as possible and then to release it and come back to presence. And it's the same thing when it comes to loving yourself and loving each other. Cultivating the awareness to notice when you've slipped out of that love, and then having the tools to come back into the flow of love as quickly as possible.
Speaking of tools, we just finished creating our Conscious Intimacy program.
Yeah, we're super excited to share it with you. The Conscious Intimacy program is a 30-day intensive for couples who want to deepen their connection and level up their pleasure and create a next level sex life. It's not just some tips and tricks about sex, it's a whole new approach to intimacy. So in there, we dive deep into some of the things we're talking about in this podcast as well, about this mind-body connection and the cultivating the awareness and cultivating a relationship where you are committed to growing together and being each other's teammates and coaches.
Yeah. And we find that intimacy is just a really great playground for that and space to practice and embody and to grow in these ways.
So check out the Conscious Intimacy program. There's a link in the show notes, and use the coupon code podcast20 to get 20% off.
Thanks for listening, and congrats to you for looking to level up and grow in your relationship and your love, self-love, love for your partner, love for everybody.
You rock.
Yeah. See you next time.